everybody. It's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, September 19th, 2021. There is no secret society cupcake that is sweet enough to cover up the bitter taste of that fiasco of a christening party. A broken glass of water on the floor. Can you even imagine? What a catastrophe! Move over, Sally and Phyllis. Your ice bucket shenanigans have got nothing on this shattered glass of water on the floor debacle. As far as I'm concerned, that stuffy party needed some livening up. I did appreciate the juxtaposition of that classical Leslie Brooks piano music playing in the background while baby Dominic was crying in the foreground over the sound of Mariah apologizing for something so minor and so accidental. Oh, this is classic Mariah. She gets in her head and she's clumsy anyway, but you couple that, the normal Mariah craziness and awkwardness, with the hard reality of the PTSD and the postpartum depression that she is going through. Oh, even on a good day, I can completely see how Mariah was starting to feel like this is Abby's world and she's just living in it. This is Abby's world and everybody else is just living in it. So I was glad to see Mariah walk down that staircase with her suitcases. I think that that's entirely the right thing to do. This whole surrogacy arrangement was way too friendly to begin with. Mariah and Tessa living in the mansion was always a mistake that never needed to be part of the deal. It was for Abby's convenience and no one else's because Abby wanted to be a part of it all. Well, now Abby's got it all. And that's okay. I don't blame her for following through with the deal that everyone agreed to. But it is time for Mariah to move on, to focus on her future. And from there, hopefully, start to heal. Abby is understandably so totally preoccupied with her new baby. It's her new baby. But I can see how Abby would be coming off to Mariah as maybe disinterested in her now. Like maybe Abby got what she wanted from Mariah and now she'd just like her to go away. I don't think that's how Abby feels, but I could see how Mariah would start to feel unwanted or isolated. But Mariah did actually confess to Tessa this week that she does kind of blame Abby for everything that happened with Stitch. That feeling makes complete sense. I mean, even though we know that none of this is Abby's fault, per se, we can't blame Abby for what Stitch did, but I think that Mariah was displacing some of her feelings of jealousy. Abby gets the baby and Mariah gets nothing but her emotional trauma to snuggle with at night. Yeah, Tessa made the mistake of telling Abby that Mariah is still struggling, which is simply a fact that everyone can see. I mean, Tessa didn't say anything that everyone else can't completely see, but Mariah did not appreciate Tessa confiding something so personal in someone who, let's be honest, at this point, Mariah sees as competition. So Abby tries to pull this whole thing out of the nosedive. She calls a family meeting. Family meaning Devon and Tessa and Mariah and her. That's the family now. And Abby announced that she would like to make Devon and Mariah become Dominic's godparents. I thought that was a very nice gesture. I think Abby is under no obligation to include them, especially since deep down, Abby probably just wants to move on with her life. She also wants to find some new sense of normalcy. She wants to have time to bond with her baby. But Mariah saw it all as Abby just kind of throwing her a bone. Abby also announced that she was going to be hiring a nanny, a notion which Mariah found almost offensive. Mariah was borderline offended by the idea that Abby would be hiring a nanny. I mean, why hire a nanny when the family can all just pitch in and watch Dominic whenever needed? In fact, I think Mariah said something to the effect of, every moment that the nanny is spending with Dominic is time that I could be spending with him. I mean, that is such an awful feeling that Mariah is going through that she just never thought she was going to feel. She knows logically that she's not Dominic's mother, but her body is telling her that she is the mother. And she needs to get in there and take care of that child. It's a biological need. Finally, enough was enough. After following through with her promise to be Dominic's godmother and going through and watching the christening, Mariah goes back to the mansion and tries going to the christening after party, but she's a bundle of nerves. I mean, Mariah is normally a bundle of nervousness, and this is just that times 100. I'm sure that Mariah was probably feeling like she can't do anything right, and she accidentally drops a glass of water and was painfully apologetic about it all when it was really no big deal. It became such a scene, such a painful scene. Mariah runs out of the house, leaving Ashley and Jack and Victor and Nikki to all kind of mull it over separately later. They're like expressing their concern about this situation, which they should have been expressing way before now. But they're right. It's untenable. When Mariah comes back, all of the guests leave. Mariah and Tessa go upstairs. They pack their bags and they tell Abby it's time to go. And Abby tries pleading with them to stay. I think that Abby wants their support, but I think Abby also wants to give them support. I think she wants to help Mariah. I think she sees Mariah as a friend, and Abby also knows that it's because of Mariah that she's holding her son. She's incredibly grateful to have her son in her arms, especially at a time when she doesn't have her husband in her arms. Abby's lonely. But Mariah has to do what's best for Mariah. So she tells Abby, I'm sorry. I thought I could do this, but I can't. I know that it may sound crazy, but when I look at this baby, I want to be the one to bond with him. I want to be his mother. I want to be the one to hold him, to feed him, to quiet him when he cries. He's my Bowie. Maybe someday I will be strong enough to be able to be close with him, but for now, I need to keep my distance. So Mariah says goodbye with tears in her eyes. I think there was tears in everyone's eyes. There was tears in my eyes. I honestly think this is the best that Cameron Grimes has ever been, and she's been pretty good many times. But this scene, that final scene on Friday, I was so heartbroken for her. And yet I know, and I know she knows logically, that this was the agreement. This is the way that it has to be. But I was proud of her for realizing that she had to get out of there. That was the right choice. But that definitely does not mean that it's going to be smooth sailing from here on out, because in the previews for next week, ouch. Mariah is telling Tessa that she thinks they should now have a baby together. I have so much empathy for Tessa because I don't even know what her reaction is going to be. I don't know what she's gonna say, or how she's gonna find a way to say what maybe needs to be said, because I think it would be a fine idea if Mariah and Tessa had come to that conclusion under different circumstances. But it feels like Mariah is now trying to quickly fill an emotional hole by having another baby, and that's not a good place to start a family from, and it's also not fair to Tessa. I mean, have Mariah and Tessa even talked about having a family? How do we know that Tessa wasn't the one who wanted to carry their child? I don't know. This just feels like a recipe for more heartache. What is up with Elena? Huh? She's working 3 jobs. She's too tired to go out on a date with Nate. She's still concerned about the power dynamic at work. Are we just character building here? Is that what all this is? Are we just showing Elena as that relatable, hardworking girl that we all see ourselves as? Including the guys. Or are we maybe building toward some sort of mental health breakdown? Maybe some sort of addiction? Like, Elena's so busy and so stressed, she has to take uppers to stay awake and then downers to get to sleep. And then Nate swoops in and gives her the help that she needs, solidifying their relationship by overcoming a crisis. Or if there is a crisis, will it break Nate and Elena apart? Maybe she becomes so stressed and so overwhelmed that she starts to push Nate away. I couldn't help but notice that Amanda may be needing some medical advice soon. Breaking news, Naya has an She got an I don't know what that is. Sounds like some kind of heart condition, but she could need surgery. What do you think of that? Amanda's mother's life could be in Nate's hands, and then Amanda starts to fall for him, and Devon gravitates back toward Elena. That could be a long-term story. But next week, Devon is asking Amanda to move in with him. Maybe that's a better scenario. Because if I were Amanda, I don't think I would let Nate operate on me or anyone in my family after his emergency surgery sent Hillary to her grave. This week, Jack apologizes to Phyllis. Oh, not for admitting his feelings for her. He just apologizes if those feelings made her feel uncomfortable. Okay, so we've got that, and now we've got Nick questioning out of the blue how meaningful his relationship with Phyllis is. Nick is asking himself, is it just sex? Or is she using me for all my muscles? Well, she sure as heck ain't using you for your brains, Nick, so yeah, I'd say it's the muscles. I mean, what a real soap opera problem Nick has on his hands here. He realizes that his relationship with Phyllis is basically perfect. They have fun together. They have great sex together. They love each other. They are a family together. Something must be wrong. Better get out there and cause a problem fast, or this relationship is doomed. Oh, maybe it's doomed anyway. Jack has got Phyllis on the brain. She has moved to the forefront of his mind. I think Jack has spent years trying to ignore his love for Phyllis, and now that wound has been freshly reopened with his confession. Oh, I loved those flashbacks this week of their engagement. Phyllis wearing that sexy red dress with that short and sassy turn-of-the-century little bob haircut. Cute. Big blue watery eyes. And then Jack's big blue watery eyes standing there in his tuxedo with the collar unbuttoned and the tie untied, just hanging around his neck, and then him presenting the ring as she says, just do it. Just put it on my finger before I come to my senses and change my mind. Ah! What a great, great memory that was. I loved that scene. I was so in love with Jack and Phyllis when that was happening. It was just such a shocking pairing, and I think they had already been together a while at that point, but that was a great, great engagement. I think that engagement, I think where they were standing was in the pool house, right? Were they in the pool house in that scene? Oh, the memories. Oh, the pool house. Back in the days when summer outside felt like summer on the show. So Sally comes face to face with Sharon for the first time. Wow. Even Sharon treated Sally like she was a leper. Usually Sharon is much more humanitarian. She's usually much more kind. Oh, Sharon thinks that Adam deserves a second chance, even if it means trampling over her marriage to give it to him. But I guess Sally is just too new in this town to have caused this much trouble and to be worthy of the second chance. Plus, Sharon does not want Adam to slip back into his old ways. She tells him, maybe it's better for you to stay single. Real subtle, Sharon. Real subtle. Oh, hey, at least Adam and Chelsea aren't getting back together. You know, for Connor's sake. Ooh. Chelsea checks back in to let us know that Anita has taken a turn for the worse. She fell and she re-injured herself. She didn't just injure herself, she re-injured herself, probably trying to hobble around the apartment in her leopard print heels. And although it sounds like Chelsea would really much prefer to just get back together with Adam after everything that she put him through and after everything that he's put her through, but Adam has to put his foot down, it's time to move on, and Chelsea says fine, but she can't come back to town to tell Connor that his parents are breaking up. So Adam has to take on the job of breaking that news to Connor all on his own. And he tries. But Connor is no fool. No, Connor gets the full picture. Pretty much the moment that Adam drug Connor over to see Sharon, things got a little uncomfortable on his own, so Adam drags Connor over to see Sharon to get some help, and Connor really brought down the hammer on both of them. Connor had overheard Chelsea telling Anita about Adam and Sharon, and Connor puts it together all on his own that Sharon must be the problem in his parents' relationship. Well, these soap opera kids are getting smarter and savvier in their extended time off screen. Maybe it's about time to age Connor up so that he too can fall in love with Sharon. What do you think of that? Adam, Sharon, Connor triangle. Or maybe Adam, Sally, Connor triangle. I mean, Sally would be a little closer to his age bracket. Oh, I'm just kidding. Father-son triangles. It would never happen. So many other times. Yes, Connor has to run away from the pain. He chooses to run away from the pain like the little rebel that he will soon be. Oh, the girls are gonna love that. Future girls are gonna melt over Connor's little rebel routine. He runs away to the park. Sally finds him in the park on her daily fashion show jog. I love that every day for Sally is a run and a fashion show at the same time. She runs the catwalk. Oh, wow. That's Sally. Isn't she a real hero? Recognizing that kid that she's never even met, and then texting Adam to let him know where Connor was, and then hanging out there in the park, probably baking her buns on that stone bench, waiting for Adam and Sharon to come collect the kid. Weird. Sharon backs away awkwardly when she sees that Sally is there. And Adam thanks Sally for her help. She, of course, offers Adam more help should he need it. If there's anything more that Sally can do to help Adam, she'd be more than happy to help. But Adam says, no. This is a private family affair. He'll just go ahead and repress that desire that he's feeling for her. He'll just swallow it down. Gulp. Ashland Locke tells Victoria that the reason no one can find a record of Ashland Locke's early days is because Ashland Locke doesn't exist. Swell the music, fade to black, bring on the commercial break. Ooh, juicy. Oh, but more than that, so much more than that. Ashland tells Victoria that as a teenager, he ran away from an abusive home. He had an alcoholic father. He wanted to get away from him. His mother was negligent. So he just decided to create an all-new identity for himself. He tells the story to Victoria. He then calls a Newman family meeting. Well, now it's the Newman family plus Billy, just to throw Billy in there to help dispel the rumors and in Ashland's mind, hopefully stop the investigations once and for all. Well, Ashland tells them the story of the abusive father, which, by the way, was an awesome performance by Richard B. He had such a passionate anger as he recounted it all. And whether it ended up that the story was true or not, it seemed so real. His passion was just so palatable. It seemed almost to be a story, though, that was tailor-made for Victor's ears. It was very similar to Victor's story in a lot of ways. The dysfunctional family, having changed his name and created a new life for himself, built his company from the ground up, became a tycoon. I mean, either it was something that Victor was made up and made to hear, or Victoria just sort of found a man who reminded her of her father, and that's just more evidence of that. But I especially appreciated Victor asking Ashland if he ever went back to his family and told them what a success he had become, just to stick it to them. Victor used those words, just to stick it to them. I thought that was really funny, and in that moment I was reminded of when Victor and Nick took that trip to go meet Albert Miller, and yeah, those were some incredibly powerful scenes. Sticking it to him really didn't go so well, but it was interesting that that's where Victor's mind went. And you could see as the week went on that even though Victor doesn't entirely trust Ashland, he seemed to respect the story, seemed to respond to the story, and chose to not ask any further questions. Victor bought it. Ashland is a man after his own heart, said all the right things. But Billy did not buy it. Ashland refused to disclose his birth name during the conversation, and that ended up just making Billy more suspicious, and it led to a private confrontation between them, which included Ashland kind of making some vague threats toward Billy. So it seems like it's about to get ugly between those two. Victor's backed off. It is going to be Billy versus Ashland. And I'd like to ask you guys, is Billy justified here? I want to put a poll on that question for this week. I mean, let's look at Billy's role in all of this, Billy's behavior through all of this. Are you rooting for Billy to keep going, to keep digging? Are you saying, go get him, Billy, uncover the truth? Or are you leaning more toward wishing that Billy would just back off? YRChat.com, that's our poll question for the week. Let me know what you think about Billy. You rooting for Billy to go get him, or just to back off the situation entirely? Or even back off just a little? I mean, I will give Billy this. On the surface, yeah, it looks bad on Ashland. Ashland is hiding something. Period. We know it as the audience. And, I mean, shoot, even the characters know it. Even Victoria admitted to Nick this week that she's beginning to question her decision to, marry a man that she doesn't really know all that well. Ashland has continued to get these new mystery text messages. Those are always fun. Mystery text messages from nameless, faceless person we don't know. The messages so far have said, "You're a hard man to keep track of. You'll regret ignoring me. It's time to meet. I won't go away just because you pretend I'm not here." And then next week in the previews, we have sort of good-looking mystery man showing up to have a meeting with Ashland. Presumably it's the person from the text messages. And the guy is telling Ashland, and Ashland is receiving the message that it's a blackmail situation. And if Ashland forks over $3 million, then his secret will stay safe. Only $3 million? Sold. I I mean, come on. He just bought a surgery wing at the hospital. Surely he can afford more than $3 million. Although, I don't know. Maybe the surgery wing left him a little tapped and he can't just materialize $3 million out of his checking account. Oh, goodness. I'm looking forward to that for next week. I'm still thinking that Ashland has a sibling. I still think Y&R has rolled over a lot of Tara's story directly onto Ashland. I think they had to get rid of Tara, but they decided to keep parts of the story. And if Tara is not Ashland's sibling, the way I was theorizing last week, then I think maybe this new mystery guy is. I think that guy could very well be his brother. Maybe a younger brother. Maybe the brother that he left behind. Yeah. See, the thing is, I think that Y&R sees the character of Ashland as a romantic lead. So I don't think they're going to turn him into some mustache-twirling bad guy who is going to kill Victoria. I mean, I have thought that at various points, but now, after taking a look at it, I just don't think that's where we're headed. I mean, especially not now. Especially after Ashland's detailed description of the dynamics of abuse within a family. I mean, that was so real. That was accurate. Like the mother letting it happen, standing there watching him as he had this black eye and the split lip and not doing anything about it. I mean, just the family dynamics of abuse that he was describing were so spot on that I think making all of that passionate speech, making that part of Ashland's concocted lie would work against what I think their agenda is. In the end, I think Ashland is no angel, but I don't think he's just a one-dimensional bad guy. I think he's a questionable guy with a bad past. I think that he's afraid of something that's coming back to haunt him, and I think it just could be that Ashland will unintentionally put Victoria and the Newmans in danger. Oh, anyway, I'm just here for the scintillating conversation. I kind of am. I am here for the scintillating conversation. And so is Adam. That was last week's Who Said It quote. Adam said it to Sally on their non-date date. Good job, you guys. It was Henry, Daisy, Nancy, Kamna, Sam, Sheila, Jonathan, Kirsten, and Diana who all guessed that one right. It was Adam. Oh, well, but can you guess this one? Everyone has secrets they prefer stay buried. Everyone has secrets they prefer stay buried. Who said it? If you think you know, go to yrchat.com to leave your guess. And if you get it right, I will give you your shout out during next week's Y&R Chat. And now let's read some of your chat, starting with Leslie, who says, I don't know if I'm just noticing something I never have, but the music of late has been so good and really helps draw me into the scenes and sets the mood. I especially liked the music during all of the scenes surrounding Ashland's discussion. Using the same music to transition between people discussing it really made it somehow more intense. Yes, that Y&R score. I mean, they are doing a really great job. That's been always one of the things I've appreciated so much about Y&R. It's just, it really creates almost just like you're immersed in it. It's an immersive viewing experience. I mean, you cannot discount how much music adds to your experience of watching the show. Oh, Superplex says Richard Burgi is so effective at depicting a volatile personality. Superplex, yes. I mean, we saw him seeming increasingly volatile as the week has gone on, and Richard really nails it. I don't know how to say his last name. Could somebody help me figure that out once and for all? Is it Bergie? Bergie? Somebody tell me. I never know how to figure that out. Maybe I need to look up a YouTube video interview with him, and maybe one of the interviewers will say his name. I gotta get that right. I'm terrible with names. He's so good, though. And Zuperplex also asks, here's an interesting question. Why has the blackmailer popped up now, just as Ashland is about to marry Victoria? Presumably, he could have blackmailed Ashland when he was married to Tara. Or is Tara aware that Ashland murdered Camilla Rhodes and stole her empire? Yeah, that sure does seem like it would be a likely trajectory, right? I mean, we've been thrown this bone about the Camilla Rhodes and how did he get the money to buy those companies. So yeah, I mean, definitely it could be that he murdered her for sure. But it is an interesting question. Why now? I imagine it's mostly just can be answered by, 'cause the plot. Jana says, I'm still hoping that the show goes in another direction. Instead of a murder plot, what if there's something in the lengthy contracts that Victoria didn't catch that allows Ashland to seize control of the merged Newman Locke Enterprises? Watching Victor and Victoria fight to regain control of the company could be interesting if well written. Yes, that'd be my preferred direction too. And we've kicked around this idea a little bit in the past, and I really quite like it because it allows us to keep Richard B. If he just murdered somebody, then it's so, okay, murderer, goodbye now. But if it's something like he pulled a really, a sneaky move to get in with the contracts and take control over Newman Enterprises, I mean, that's the kind of corporate takeover story is one that we've seen a million times. Everybody gets away with at least one or two corporate takeovers. So that way he could do it and we could still hang out and have him. I've never forgotten someone told me that he just was not looking for a long-term stint on the show. And, I mean, we can't keep everybody forever. So I understand if he has to go, but I do like the idea of it being more of a business pulling the wool over the Newmans' eyes as opposed to, yeah, I murdered somebody one time. But Daisy says, Ashland's half story seems remarkably close to Victor's story. It seems so odd that Victor is now standing by his daughter's side, no matter the pain she's been through, no matter the untruths Ashland spouts. However, maybe Victoria discovered Ashland's nefarious plan a while ago and told her father, and now that's when the two begin their plot to take over Ashland's company fully and completely, ousting him before he can oust Victoria, not letting him get even close to taking the Newmans from them. Their support of Ashland is a ruse. He won't see it coming, and to ensure Ashland doesn't find out, they tell no one, including Nikki. They prepare for her anger, but Victoria will be the victor, and Victor victorious. I like that idea that Victoria knows something and that she could be the one to get the leg up on Ashland. There's also the possibility, though, I mean, just based on everything that happened with Stitch and the Mariah kidnapping, there's also the possibility that he's not going to turn out to be a bad guy at all. I don't think we can really take that completely off the table. I have to learn some of my lessons from all the ways we were spinning theories about the kidnapper. Sometimes the direction that soap fans are expecting it to go in, because we're always looking for that twist, it's just not there. I mean, I think this writing team is much more apt to play it straight. I'm not saying that's definitely where it's going, and I love your theories, don't get me wrong on that. I love the wild theories, but there's a part of me that's just saying, no, I don't think they're going to pin anything nefarious on Ashland at all. I think they are probably going to have some kind of very reasonable or somewhat reasonable thing that he's being blackmailed over, and that they're now bringing on this mystery guy to be the fall guy. That's the bad guy. That new mystery guy is the bad guy, because Richard B is the heartthrob for Victoria. Oh, well, there's also the possibility that this all could be leading back to a Billy and Victoria reunion. Sherrod says Billy has every right to be concerned about Ashland Locke. That man will be living with his vulnerable children. I would want to know the truth about who is truly hanging out around my kids. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think you're right. Everybody is definitely needling at Billy for going in so hard on this. And yeah, there's parts where I think, man, Billy, you need to pull it back. You're being a little aggressive. Maybe you need to not be so up in his face about it. Be a little bit more slick and sly. But this is a really great point. I mean, where there are kids involved and this guy being around the kids, I would want to know the truth too. But Sue W. says, hate him or not, you gotta love Billy's crass inquiry. What's the name on their headstone, he says. Oh, ka-clunk. What's your name? What's your parents' name? What's the name on their headstone? Oh, yeah. That's brutal. I can't believe he said that. But, you know, in some ways, it's like, that's the good part. That's the good part is watching all of that go down and watching that little gem clunk out of Billy's mouth. Oh, that is rich. Well, Calmness says, I meant to leave this comment last week, and I have to say, I love Billy and Lily, and I tip my hat to Jason and Christelle for their acting. Their interaction is so easy and believable. They can be sexy and flirty in one scene, and frustrated and butting heads in another. But most of all, just very real, like how they were at the coffee house after they say Nate and Elena, and then they were talking at the counter, or how Lily was laughing when she was telling Billy what happened at the Newman launch party. Simply, I love it, and I want them to stay together. Yeah, they do have a nice chemistry, I agree. I just want to take it more. I want more out of them, too. Yeah, but I think maybe down the road it would be good to see, like we were talking about last week, Lily being incorporated more into the motherly role with his kids. Like, watching them settle down into something more serious will also be interesting down the road, if it's headed there. Sharita says, Lily, please dump Billy before you get your heart completely broken when he rescues Victoria from herself and they reunite in the blink of an eye. Oh, you think so? Billy and Victoria reunion around the corner of this? I mean, that's definitely what I would have thought several months ago. Remember, Victoria was seeming like she had a real problem with Billy and Lily, seeming like she was gonna try to be sneaky to maybe try and get him back, and a lot of that just kind of fell to the wayside. I think, yeah, I mean, for sure, if I had to pick Billy and Victoria or Billy and Lily, you better believe I'm picking Billy and Lily. I am so far over Billy and Victoria. It's just almost like they're a legacy couple that I feel like I'm supposed to want together, but the pairing of Jason Thompson's Billy and Amelia's Victoria just has, I mean, I feel like they should work. It all logically makes sense, but that fire's just not there for me, and I don't think it ever has been. Jason Thompson brings something very unique to the role of Billy, and it just doesn't, like, he's not, I don't know how to quite describe it. I think Jason Thompson is a little more smug, a little more serious, but when I think of Billy and Victoria, I think a little bit more of her version with Billy Miller's version, and Billy Miller was much more kind of, he was a little bit more funny, a little bit more lighthearted, kind of a lovable screw up, and that's not quite how Jason Thompson plays it. I thought that lovable screw up played really well against Victoria's staunchness, and you know, she's a little more uptight, and that dynamic really worked, and it just, the Jason Thompson and Amelia just didn't quite hit me the same, so I certainly would not be rooting for them to have a reunion in the end. There is something about Lily and Billy now that I do think is very smooth and very sexy and very appealing, and you know, I think I should be satisfied about that for now, but I think in the future I wouldn't mind seeing them take it to the next level. Well, lots of folks this week mentioning that they remember and miss Philly. Like Phyllis plus Billy. I think that's really interesting because it's just, I remember Billy and Phyllis, absolutely, and I do think they had a lot of good chemistry together, but the question on the table this week is not Philly, it's Phick or Feck. I asked you guys, Phick or Feck 2021, what you rooting for? 64% of you pick Phick. That's Phyllis plus Nick. And 36% of you pick Feck. That's Phyllis plus Jack. Astra says, I voted Phick. I've always loved these two together a lot more than their respective partnerships with Jack and Sharon. I loved the having fun and being in love of Nick and Phyllis. I feel Nick and Phyllis can let loose with each other more than they can with other partners, which makes the pairing more interesting. Not to mention, the actors have phenomenal chemistry. I hope this recent storyline will not have them break up, but will only make them stronger as a couple. Oh yeah, I gotta say, the actors have definitely got chemistry. You can kind of tell that Michelle Stafford and Josh Morrow get along. They've got a good dynamic. I think they share a sense of humor, and that really translates through into the Nick and Phyllis relationship that I see on screen. Southside Granny says, I have really enjoyed seeing the new Nick shine. He stands tall and sturdy in the whirlwind of Phyllis, which is exactly what she needs. Their characters have both evolved into a commitment that brings a warmth to viewers like myself. And Jack, on the other hand, is lonely and searching for a love he thought he could have with Phyllis. He is remembering only the good times they shared, not what tore them apart. Surely there are some junior executives in Genoa City, Jack. Oh, this is great that you mentioned the new Nick, right? I mean, I do think that there is something in this relationship he has shared with Phyllis that has given him a new birth. Like, it's sort of a Nick renaissance. He's become a much more fun, cool guy. I mean, Y&R tried putting him into many different spots over the years. They tried making him dark horse. It never worked out. He's just really hit his sweet spot here with Phyllis, and I agree with you guys. I voted for Phick. Henry says, I voted Phyllis plus Nick because he and she are Summer's biological parents. That's a strong bond, even though Jack, if memory serves, delivered Summer. I do grow a bit tired of Nick and Phyllis being avid video gamers, as that's a bit too immature given their ages. A redo of Phyllis and Jack would be a more mature relationship, but Phyllis and Nick is more realistic. Oh, you don't like their video game competition element of like that to the relationship. You think it's immature. I guess I didn't think of it reading that way. I guess I thought of it as more just fun, but yeah, I can see that point. Kamna says, I voted for Phick, but would actually be perfectly happy with Fact too. I think some kind of crisis needs to happen so that we can see Phyllis and Nick do more than just laugh together and make out. That will solidify it. And maybe that crisis is Phyllis sleeping with Jack. Ultimately, Kamna, I think I would probably be okay either way, but I definitely prefer Nick and Phyllis. But you're waiting for them to have a crisis to solidify it, and Phyllis sleeping with Jack. Ooh, would Nick forgive that? I don't know. Jamie says, the scene when Jack admitted his love for Phyllis was incredibly touching and sad. For me, it was a recognition of what could have been and the gravity of that loss. I think Jack knows that Phyllis is in love with Nick and fully committed to him, and although she loves Jack too, it's a deep yet platonic love. I'm going to be very disappointed if the writers resurrect the Phick Fact drama of old, infidelity and all. I am much more interested in seeing Phyllis remain committed and faithful to Nick, and for Jack to continue respecting their relationship by not interfering. Jack deserves a love that brings him joy, sexiness, fun, and true companionship. It's time for Miss Gloria to fulfill her destiny of being that great love for him. They have so much potential to be a magical, soapy, long-lasting love ripe with excitement. Ugh, Jamie, so much in there, ripe for the plucking. Oh, so Jack and Phyllis, I just want to start back at the beginning. Jack and Phyllis, didn't they lose a baby together? And then they were unable to conceive. And then Phyllis got pregnant with Summer, which was the double whammy of heartbreak for Jack. He wanted that baby with Phyllis, and then she went out and had the affair with Nick. And not only did she have the affair, but then she got pregnant with another man's baby. Yes, that was so that was so memorable, and it is so deep. But I think it's interesting that you think that Phyllis's love for Jack now is platonic. So you don't think that Phyllis is physically attracted to Jack at all. Ooh, that's interesting. And that's perfectly fine for me, because I agree with you 100% that I would rather see Jack with Gloria. I mean, that all day long. Gloria and Jack all day long. You're right. That would have so much potential. Where did Gloria go? We were seeing her, and now we're not seeing her. Victoria says, Jack is a great romantic lead, and Y&R has left him simmering for too long. I would like to see Phyllis with Jack if I can't have Jack and Gloria. Phick have chemistry and a healthy bond of caring, minus the convoluted Marco storyline. I believe Nick and Sharon belong together. I think since they are legacy characters, there will come a time when Y&R will have them realize that they belong together, no matter what. All right, finally, Victoria is giving us a reason for a vote for Phick. So you'd like to see Jack and Gloria and Nick and Sharon. Well, Gary says Jack's apparent deep love for Red would be conditional. Conditions that poor girl could never hope to meet. Nick, older and wiser, has come to accept Phyllis for who she is on the larger premise that she is well-intentioned and of good heart. Nick gives Phyllis the free rein to have the fun she craves, where Jack will always have the need to reel her in despite himself. I think it could be a mistake to assume that Phyllis and Nick do not really love each other but are merely comfortable together. I think Nick's greatest love is Sharon. They may find a way back to each other, but I'm not expecting it at this time. I will always agree that Nick's great love is Sharon. But like you, Gary, I am definitely not going to hold my breath for the Nick and Sharon reunion. It just doesn't seem to be in the cards. Sharon is placed too prominently into Adam's storyline for that to happen. Well, Superplex says, I cannot believe Connor ran out on his dad. And Ellen zings, well, he is a lacrosse star now. Yeah, he really learned how to run at that lacrosse camp he's been at, so that's why he just jolted right away. Calmness says, watching Sharon scoot in so close to Adam, along with that weird attitude she gets when helping Adam, totally pushed me to Team Sally today. I hope Adam and Sally get together and Connor plays a role in it. Ooh, maybe Connor will start to like Sally and then try to push her into Adam's direction. That's a good idea. Sue W. says, Connor, precocious much. Ugh, cute actor saddled with horrid dialogue. No kid speaks like that. But wow, Sally was great in her scene with him at Chancellor Park. Major props to Courtney Hope for having such natural and believable give and take with an awkward youngster. I am loving Sally more and more every day. Naomi says, I am tired of Sharon and don't really understand her character in the show, but I love Sally. I enjoy her way of gliding through each scene with a flash of a smile and a sparkle in her eyes. Ooh, I can see that the tide is shifting. The tide is shifting toward Adam and Sally, and the fans are just going right along with it, loving it, leading the way. Sue W says, I liked the spunk shown by Ray this week when he put Sharon on blast. Well, as much as Ray ever puts anyone on blast. For continuing to see Adam. Granted, it was still a bit spineless, but he said his piece. Of course, he probably later backpedaled and apologized, as he always does when he dares cross his sainted Sharon. Why does this hunky, by all accounts good guy, stay with women who want someone else? Ray is too much beefcake to be relegated to a morose milquetoast. I hope we get some more fire from this character. Ray needs a juicy, twisty love story that puts him front and center. And a storyline that lets him laugh at least once in a while, like every other full moon or something. Poor guy. Yeah, I think the viewers are continuing to yearn for something more substantial out of Ray. It's really clear that even the people who don't like Sharon and Ray together really think that Ray has potential and wouldn't mind seeing him in a bigger, juicier, twistier story. So what's the holdup? Why are Sharon and Ray just kind of dead in the water? We don't see them together that often, and whenever we do see them, they're arguing. How can we even continue to root for that? Why doesn't Y&R just bust them up, let Sharon do someone else, do something else, and give Ray a new challenge, something to get him, with a smile on his face would be nice. Gary says, Ray speaks up, says what he wants to say, then backs down, gives Sharon a compliment, but then exits the scene so fast you know he's mad. He just kind of threw up his hands as if this would be an impossible task to try. Were Adam the kidnapper, he would be scouring the earth. Yeah, I think Ray needs to scour something besides Sharon's shower. Ray needs to do something. Same for Faith and Moses. Sharita says maybe they can age Connor, Bella, Johnny, and Katie up to be teens like Faith and Moses. I like them a lot as a couple, but it's boring that they have no other same-age friends to discuss their relationship with. Maybe bring the twins back, or Mackenzie and her kids. They really need at least 2 more teens. Heck, bring back Daniel and Lucy. She could be a teenager. It was really bugging me so much this week. Faith and Moses had scenes this week, and I couldn't even bring myself to comment on them. I mean, it was cute the way Faith was trying to get info out of Nate about what the first date would be, and I'm glad, Moses is staying around, and it's all very cute and nice, but it's just not enough to really sink my teeth into. I mean, all I can do is report that Moses and Faith were on screen this week for, 5 minutes of screen time, and there's just nothing more than that to say. They were on screen. They're happy together. That's all I got. At some point, it does need to be more. Well, here's some more. Sharita also says, Nikki and Victor were adorable in Friday's episode. I truly love their love. Victor lately seems like he adores Nikki more than ever. Yeah, I agree. He has settled into that spot. We're done with the Nikki and Victor drama. They don't have to be at odds in stories ever again. They can just settle into their relationship that's loving and accepting. So in that way, it's a wish granted. We were saying that. I've been saying that for a long time before it actually happened. We are here, and it is nice. Y&R viewer 123 says, I never thought that Victor picking up cupcakes would happen. You never thought you'd see Victor Newman, king of the earth, picking up cupcakes? Well, the times have changed, that's for sure. Diana says, is it just me, or does anyone else find it odd that cupcakes were the only food served at baby Dominic's christening? That's not even a real food. It's What's the dessert food that is eaten afterwards? Where are the yummy appetizers and finger foods? How about some sandwiches, cheese and crackers with some nice dips, fruits, etc.? These cupcakes seemed pretty cheesy in my opinion. This should be a big celebration with celebratory food to go with it. How often are baby Dominic Phillip Chancellor Newman Abbott's born? The baby's name has more variety than the food. If you're only going to have sweets, you could have more than one kind. These people are supposed to be rich. It was just embarrassing. Just saying. Oh, Diana, you're a girl after my own heart, because you know I'm always looking at the food at these parties. And yeah, cupcakes that I don't even know, did we even actually see the cupcakes? That's a real letdown, but oh, this is funny. The outrage over the menu is so great. I love it. That is like the funnest comment of the week. Thank you. Oh, that's way more fun than what was going on with the drama in the foreground. That was not fun at all. Herman says, I wish that Abby was written better. Not to mention that the actress could use some classes to brush up on how to emote. She's quite weak in her range. After what Mariah has been through, Abby needs to be the much bigger person and make moves to have a conversation with Mariah. So far, she has defended her ex that kidnapped because of her. She is being all sneaky, listening in and watching Mariah through her side eye. Mariah just went through hell and gave her the gift of a child. She needs to put on a grown-up personality and sit and tap into Mariah. In fact, you would think Abby would feel guilty because Mariah was kidnapped because of her, but no, Abby is always all about herself. Herman, that is a pretty good point, too. Why didn't Abby really try to reach out to Mariah? Maybe some of this could have been prevented. I mean, I think Abby was just so focused on her son. I think the whole time the baby was missing, I think Abby felt that. I mean, Abby feels like the mother, too. And I'm sure that was very difficult for her going through this. She's missing her husband. But, yeah, I think that you make a really good point. She should have really reached out to Mariah more. And maybe Mariah wouldn't have started to feel isolated. Maybe the situation would not have been so awkward if the lines of communication were a little more open. Jana says, Abby has pledged to raise her son, Dominic Phillip Abbott Newman Chancellor, to be down to earth and humble. Why is it that I'm already thinking that if Dominic has those traits, it will be in spite of Abby and not because of her? After all, those aren't the words anyone has ever used to describe Abby. You know, anyone who names their child Dominic Phillip Abbott Newman Chancellor probably is not that down to earth and humble. But it's so interesting. People are really ripping on Abby. I mean, we have to remember this was the arrangement. I mean, everybody did agree to this. Abby didn't hold anybody hostage and make them do anything. They all did it because Abby's just so wonderful. It makes people want to do things for her. But Superplex says it is Abby's fault for insisting on a pregnancy so soon after the marriage and to insist on a surrogate pregnancy even though her husband is sterile, and for selecting Mariah, and for agreeing to have Devon as the sperm donor, and to have Mariah stay at the mansion, and to keep her there even though common sense tells you this is a recipe for disaster. But Sherrod says, I don't blame Abby one bit. Mariah didn't have to say yes, and Devon is most definitely didn't have to volunteer his sperm. Abby and Chance wanted a family. They went about making it the best way they knew how. The other two players did not have to step in. Abby is currently alone, which is one of the reasons she still wants Tessa and Mariah there. Again, maybe that's selfish on Abby's part, but they don't have to stay there. Yeah, no, they didn't. And I think you're right that a big part of this is the fact that Abby is alone and she feels lonely. But on the flip side, Abby also made this decision. Abby also stepped in and got involved in this, and thinking foolishly that everything was just going to work out and that everybody was going to keep to their contracts, and if we have contracts, then what's the problem? But nobody counted on what was going to go on emotionally. Abby certainly didn't count on the fact that she wouldn't have her husband by now. But I also want to make the point this week that Abby made this decision about the surrogacy without chance. Right? She decided to go through with this surrogate pregnancy after Chance already left and without his consent. Am I right? So I just think that's an interesting part of this. The fact that Abby kind of decided for her and Chance that this was the route that they should take. I mean, did Chance, maybe Chance said something in the letter like, go ahead, baby, go without me, you have my blessing. But she still didn't have to make that decision. That's the thing about this story that actually is good. Everybody's culpable. Everybody agreed to everything. And nobody could have predicted all the emotions and the fallout and the things that people are feeling. But they sure are responsible for their actions. I mean, you can't really be all that responsible for what your feelings and your emotions and stuff, but they all chose this. Leslie says, I'm ready for a Dominic Soares. Skip to the 5-year-old bumping into Mariah and calling him Bowie. Leslie, the drama's just beginning and you're already over it. You're already waiting for him to be 25. Maybe we could just age up Dominic and he too could get into a triangle. Maybe Dominic, Adam, Sally. Oh. Well, Sherrod says, next week, Mariah is totally wrong for what she's asking of Tessa. She just wants a baby to replace the void that Bowie/Dominic has left. Also, the exact words she spoke to Abby about having a baby for her before even thinking about that journey for herself is exactly why a person who has never given birth cannot legally be a surrogate. A breakup and custody battle is on the way, Sherrod says. I didn't know that. Have we talked about that? I guess, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I knew it and didn't remember it. So, in order to be a surrogate, legally you have to have already given birth. That's kind of a good fail-safe. Yeah, because you can't know what you don't know till you're in it, and it's a pretty big deal. It really is it's way bigger deal than you think it's gonna be. But you think a breakup and a custody battle is on the way. So you think Mariah and Tessa are going to break up, and then who's the custody battle going to be? You think Mariah's going to try to get custody of Dominic? Oh, I also love this zinger from Sherrod who says, Mariah, kidnapped in a little room, dreams of Tessa rescuing her, sings Tessa's song to help calm herself and the baby, cries out to Tessa when scared. Mariah, at home with Tessa? I need some time alone. Really? Here we go. Man, that is well written too. Yeah, I mean, the whole time Mariah's thinking of her love, her true love, Tessa, and the second we get back to town, it's all problems for them. Sherrod also had an interesting pull here, saying, as I watched today's episode for the 3rd time, it struck me as funny that Tessa Porter was in the same room with Nikki and Victor Newman and lived to walk out. I believe this was the first time that Nikki and Tessa were in a scene together since March of 2019, the courtroom when the Margarita crew was sentenced to prison. Nikki was the first person that Tessa met in Genoa City. I really miss their friendship. I totally forgot about that friendship, and I didn't even think about that at the christening, but that would have been a good pull if maybe Nikki would have said a little hi with Tessa. Gosh, she has sure come a long way. Kate Fairbanks has really become a real soap star. I mean, she is dolled up to perfection in every single scene. That black dress that she was wearing this week with the high puffy shoulders and her hair and her lipstick and her makeup and her sad eyes, she's just so super beautiful. It's actually, Tessa has grown on me so much throughout the process of Mariah's surrogacy. That was not an effect that I would have predicted, but somehow out of all of this craziness, I've just developed a real appreciation for Tessa. And that black dress. Let's talk about this other christening fashion. Diana says, I loved Ashley's tan, sparkly jumpsuit. It was so pretty and classy looking. Ashley looked very nice. Yeah, I too loved that sparkly tan jumpsuit. I love nude. I love that, I love brown, but I love nude and I love sparkly. So nude plus sparkly really worked for me too. I also have to appreciate Abby's Tiffany blue dress with that sparkly diamondy belt. I don't know if it was Chanel. I don't know Chanel, but it was like a double C on it, on the belt. And I thought, is that Chanel or was that just a C design? I don't know. I'm not that high class. But it was sparkly and it was a pretty color and I liked it. Victoria says, finally, someone got Nina's wardrobe right. She looked sophisticated in her true red body-hugging dress today at the christening. She played the caring grandma and fit right in with GC's finest. Oh, yes. We all know red is Nina's color. You just cannot go wrong. Put Nina in red, and it was like a brick red, kind of a darker red, a hint over onto the brownish side of red, and it was just so beautiful. Yeah, everybody was looking good. But some of our people are not feeling good. Gary says, Esther V. recovering nicely in real-life hospital while the real Leslie Brooks returns to Genoa City soon. Yeah, I saw Kate Linder, who plays Esther, sustained some minor injuries while helping her mother with her own injuries. So it sounds like Kate Linder is in sort of a Chelsea and Anita type situation. She's helping her mother out, who had some injuries, and while she was helping her mother, she somehow herself. Maybe that's where Y&R got the idea for Chelsea and Anita from Kate Linder. Maybe Kate's been helping her mother, and that's where they got the idea. But also, Gary, yes, I knew you were gonna love this when I saw it. Janice Lind reprising her role of Leslie Brooks for multiple episodes scheduled to air in mid-October. I am thinking that maybe Leslie coming back is going to be in connection with the Italian wedding that we've been promised. Maybe we're actually going to get this wedding. Oh, with a live performance from the Leslie Brooks. I mean, this is set to be the affair of the year. A world-class pianist playing at the party. We have been promised a palazzo. We've been promised a trumpet wedding dress. And I will tell you right now, the Newmans better be serving something more than cupcakes. Am I right, Diana? Okay, everybody. Voila! That takes me to the end of another delightful Y&R chat. I sure hope that you have enjoyed it. If so, you should go to follow up at yrchat.com. Tell me what you think of the chat. Tell me what you think of the show. Check out all the beautiful screen caps there. You know, I got a couple of good ones this week, too. The cinematography is always so good. They do such a great job. Although I will say, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed this, sometimes I've noticed lately that the camera is a little bit out of focus, because I'll be going to do my screen caps and everything, and I'll find something that I really like, and it's just not as crystal clear. I don't know if they're having some trouble with the cameras, or maybe it's a new operator or something. I mean, it's a whole tricky thing that I don't pretend to understand. I just, as a viewer, have noticed sometimes it's a little fuzzier in certain scenes than others. So I try to get the best of the best for my screen caps, but that always kind of bugs me a little bit when I see one that I want to get, but it's just not that clear. Oh well, I've got gigabytes and terabytes of Y&R photos from past nearly 10 years at that website, so feel free to go check them out, and there's all kinds of other goodies there. So yrchat.com, don't be shy, and I will be back next week to chat again about the happenings. I love you guys, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye!